I'll tell everyone, yes, the red light's flashing means we're back. Welcome back, Rio Grande Guardian viewers. This is our first meeting with Matt Ruszczak this year. So first of all, Matt, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Steve.
And we should say to everybody that Matt is the Vice President for Economic Development at the Council for South Texas Economic Progress. But of course, most of the people that are tuning in and watching this show will know that already. So again, Happy New Year, Matt. It's great to see you again. Every month we meet up with you, the discussions about the sales tax revenues for the different communities in the Valley. But this go round, I thought we'd just start by reminding the viewers about COSTEP, what the group is, and what are your immediate plans for 2022.
Absolutely. Thanks, Steve. I appreciate the opportunity to kind of chat about this. And, you know, considering the time of the year, this is our first sweater meeting as well. So I think it's a nice chance to kind of catch up and get everybody back on the same page. So
before you go on, are we both in agreement, as we both come from colder climes originally, that we just hate this cold weather?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Today is a terrible day. I cannot wait to be back in the 80s and sunshine.
Yeah, that's why we came here.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, we came to leave this, right?
We came here for 100 degrees weather.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah. So, I was mentioning, you know, COSTEP, Council of South Texas Economic Progress. You know, I appreciate that the regular viewers already know this spiel, but for the new viewers, I'll just keep it short. COSTEP's been around for 50 years now, and it has its roots in regional economic development. It was founded as a regional economic development organization, and then as part of this effort, for decades had gotten into the higher education finance field, supporting folks going to pursue higher education through student lending, and is now returning back to its roots in regional economic development without abandoning its expertise and capital in the education field. So what we do is we continue to support workforce development and education programs throughout the region, the Rio South Texas region, which ranges from the coast, Cameron and Willacy County, all the way up to Webb County, which is the Laredo area, and supporting various initiatives there and higher education, and also focusing on business recruitment and regional marketing for our region in terms of industrial attraction. And so I've had the pleasure to join this team and build up that business attraction model, both in terms of domestic industries as well as international industries. And so what we've been up to, if you followed along with us in the second half of 2021, is we became very active on the business recruitment, business attraction level, traveling to trade shows, both domestically and overseas, and engaging with folks in the mobility industry, particularly looking at the battery field, which was really fascinating, the electric vehicles and everything else that comes along with the electrification of mobility concept. And so we've had a very, very busy, particularly the end of 2021. It has yielded us a lot of great contacts, a lot of great information, some very interesting prospects. And so we are now starting 2022 focusing on working those contacts, learning the lessons, and setting ourselves up strategically so that we can hit the road again for the second quarter of 2022, once again domestically and internationally, and pursue additional contacts, develop a stronger presence in the previous target industries. And we're also going to be looking at additional industries moving forward. And I'll talk about that when we get closer to those trips. But we are really excited here at COSTEP to see where this is taking us. We've had a great initial response, great levels of interest to start off with, and we're really excited about what 2022 has in store for us in our organization and obviously for our region by extension.
Yeah, I know you give your great presentation every month to KURV as well, and I was listening to this morning, enjoying that conversation that you have with Sergio, and there you were saying that first quarter of 2022, most of your work's going to be here in the Valley. Second quarter, though, there'll be shows and trade events that you will need to cover, so you'll be getting your passport ready again.
That's exactly right. The first quarter we're doing some follow-ups to what we have from 2021. We're making our adjustments, just strategic planning and tactical adjustments in terms of what we're doing here Q1, and then hitting the road again in April. That's the plan, and being out there and spreading the gospel of our region around the globe.
Well, one more question before we get on to the main topic, which we always pull you in for, which is the sales tax revenues. But I'd like your take on how you feel the general mood is. Is there an optimistic mood in 2022? I know it's early in the year and there haven't been too many events that I've been able to cover. But from everything I've seen, there is tremendous optimism. That's what I'm sensing. People are very optimistic. We've still obviously got COVID to deal with, but as a region, there's a lot of excitement. I know, like, for example, the McAllen Economic Development Corporation, they've got this software developer that's coming in. Tremendous excitement about that. Today I was talking to a developer that's going to have a huge project north of Edinburgh. Obviously down in Brownsville, it's, all systems go, with the aerospace industry. But what's your sense of, with all the people you talk to, about how we're going to be faring this year?
I think, I'm hearing exactly the same things that you're hearing, locally, and also, looking at industry, once again, also domestically as well as internationally. Everybody's really quite excited about 2022. 2021 was really a transition year, particularly, in industry. A lot of mindsets, perspectives, and systems and processes and strategies changed in 2021. Every crisis is a great accelerator. And we definitely saw that last year. And so now is really the time where these companies are putting these strategies into work. And particularly when you look at our region, interestingly enough, I ran some numbers on trade and border crossings as well in the last couple of days. And 2021 was a fantastic year for our industry, or for our international trade side. Very, very busy, particularly obviously now as supply chains are becoming more realigned. And the strategic relationship between Mexico and the United States becomes even more and more important. Then obviously places at a great spot on the map, all puns intended, to be able to benefit from that. And because the North American market is clearly the market that has the best recovery in the whole world, after the core of the pandemic in 2020 and 2021, this is the place where people want to be. This is the place where people see huge potential and opportunity. And so once again, that strategic location at the heart of the North American supply chain that we occupy becomes an even bigger asset for us. So yes, I would say universally people are excited. When you look at the political side, politics are politics. If you look at the stock market, there's ups and downs always, rotations and repositioning. But in the big picture, I think everybody is in agreement that this is going to be a very strong year. And when we dive into the numbers, the foundation is being laid in front of our eyes to make that happen. Okay,
well, we both say bring it on. The Valley's ready for it, and so let's hope all of that optimism is fulfilled through this year. So we'll move on then to the sales tax situation, your monthly report. I know the report this month we're discussing is January 2022, and that reflects the sales tax revenues that were collected in November of 2021. It was I know it was a key month because you've got the start of the Christmas shopping, and obviously it's the first month that we would have seen the Mexican shoppers coming back and having an impact on our economy. So take it away, Matt. How did we do?
Steve, once again, we did very, very well. Like I said, we're laying the foundation for a strong 2022, and these numbers once again bear that out. Interesting, as you mentioned, we're looking at Mexican shoppers. We're looking at early Christmas shopping. And we are always looking at trend lines, right? How are things moving? And, as a quick recap, the theme in 2020 going into early 2021 was that we did really well. We actually outperformed the state on those sales tax growth metrics that we were experiencing, which is obviously fantastic news. And for the last few months, we saw those numbers adjust by the virtue of the fact that our numbers were excellent last year. The state's numbers were good, but not as excellent. We always beat them by a little bit, and so those numbers were starting to level off into this year. For the last few months, we saw a kind of a trend. But interestingly enough, this January report, which, as you mentioned, are the November sales, reverses the trend just a little bit. And what do I mean by that? The state of Texas as a whole, comparing the sales in November 21 to November 2020, was up by a whopping 25.59%. So a quarter better. I mean, huge number, huge number. Hard to beat, except when you're in the Rio Grande Valley. The Rio Grande Valley number as a whole was up 26.51%. 1% better than the state, not a huge jump above the state, but still remarkable considering that we solidly outperformed the state in the previous year. And so this is a very positive that we were able to have this stronger growth. And this growth was driven again by the two major counties. That has been an ongoing trend. Hidalgo County as a whole up 27.97%, so almost 28% up. And Cameron County not far behind, up 24.94%. Let's call that 25%. So very, very strong growth. And what we saw is a very strong performance, particularly in the major markets, which obviously on Christmas season, that's kind of what you expect. People are going to, now that we're mobile again, we're driving around, and we're going to flock to the larger communities. And we did see that if we start over in Cameron County, Brownsville was up 32.12%, very good number. We saw Mission up 28.01%. We saw Mercedes up 40.88%. And then the largest retail market in the area, McAllen, was up 34.8%. So, all the big markets, the 3Ms and Brownsville, in close to 30 or significantly above 30. Our markets not to be far enough behind. We always look at the Weslaco in Hidalgo County and South Padre Island in Cameron County. They did well. Weslaco was up 24.42% in Hidalgo County, and in Cameron County, South Padre Island was up 25.2%. So we did not stop going to the island. Definitely quite the contrary. Over in November of last year on Thanksgiving. And so once again, very strong numbers. And what is even more interesting here is looking at these numbers and looking back in 2019. So comparing November 2021 to November 2019, once again, the state's our reference point. And because this was, pre-COVID normal times, quote unquote, the state up 29.93%. Comparing November 2021 to November of 2019, 1/3 up effectively. The Valley up 37.32%, so more than a third up, 37.32%. And this growth is kind of across the board. So let me do the numbers for 2020 and then 2019, this comparison. So the big numbers in terms of the count of the communities, comparing 2021, November 21 to November 2020, we had 40 out of 44 communities up for the month. We had 39 out of 44 up at least 5%, and we had 16 out of 44 up over 20%. Fantastic number by any measure. Now, if we look at 2021, November 2021 to November 2019, so nowadays it's called that living with COVID and pre-Omicron and pre-pandemic period. There, the numbers are out of all communities, of 44 communities, 42 were up. 42 out of 44 were also up over 5%. And 40 out of the 44 were up over 20%. comparing November 2021 to November 2019. So once again, a very, very strong November. I mean, those numbers are great across the board. Just to kind of do a couple of highlights in comparing 2021 to 2019. Let's talk South Brownsville, up 52.85%. McAllen up 34.87%. Mission up 44.16%. South Padre Island up 65.95%, so 2/3 up. And Westlaco up 40.58%, so very, very strong number. And interesting enough, Mercedes, November 2021 to November 2019, up 7.22%. And obviously, like I said, this month is a little bit different than what we saw the trend from the last few months, in that we outperformed the state. And one always asks, what are the reasons for that? Why would we outperform the state now, considering that our numbers were already better last year? And there's a few factors. I think one that's still highly relevant is the child tax credit that was still in place all the way towards the end of 2021. I think that helped boost our region. We obviously have lots of kids in this area, which is great. We're a very young region. And so families probably benefit from this credit more than families throughout the state on average. So I think that's a factor. And I think another factor is Mexican nationals coming back, our friends from down south coming back across and spending money here, either as shoppers or as tourists, as visitors, whatever their purpose of the visit is. In particular, what was really interesting is that the Mercedes number is stronger in 2021, November 2021, than it was in November in 2019. So it's not just the Mexican shoppers that are shopping, but also locals are clearly spending more money. And so this change in trend, or at least this one data point, right, where we saw a little bit of a difference, where we now once again outperforming the state, I think is driven by multiple factors. The other thing that's really interesting is these really strong November numbers. Obviously the Mexican shoppers are going to help. The child tax credit is going to help. The rising wages are going to help. The big question is how much of that is early shopping for Christmas? How much is it, purchases made earlier than usual? Particularly because if we recall, in November, the big talk was supply chain issues. And, there was these scary headlines out there that says Christmas is canceled because there will be no toys. And so the big question that we'll not be able to answer until the numbers for December come in is how much of the shopping was just pulled ahead shopping in November. Nonetheless, a really, really great number. And so I know I'm kind of in a long monologue here, but Steve, let me make one more point here, because the Mexican shopper is obviously something that people are very, very curious about. So I actually went and looked at the bridge crossing numbers for November and compared those bridge crossing numbers, also comparing November 2021 to November 2020 and November 2019 to see what impact are we having. And specifically what I looked there is I took the number of passengers, that is passengers on buses, passengers in cars, as well as pedestrians. I'm sorry, not count number of passengers, number of people. The number of people crossing to see, how big of an impact did that reopening of the non-essential travel make? And once again, it opened up November the 8th, so not even on November the 1st, so it's just a partial month. But the impact is quite substantial when we compare November 2021 to November 2020. For all the bridges in the Rio Grande Valley, if you count the number of individuals, the number went up by 737,039 people. That's up 56.76%. In totality, for reference, in November 2020, we had 1,298,404 individuals come across, either as bus passengers, as car passengers, or as pedestrians. And in November of 2021, we had 2,035,443. So over 700,000 more people in November versus November 2021 versus November of 2020. Now, those are not all shoppers, obviously, right? There's the regular commuters and other traffic that has accumulated. So this is not just people with money in hand looking to go to the mall, but nonetheless, a significant impact from that reopening of non-commercial. But the big question is, how does that relate to normal? So I looked at those numbers as well, comparing November 2021 to November 2019, if we can call November 2019 normal. So in November, once again, for November 2021, we had 2,035,443 people crossing. And in November of 2019, that number was 2,570,729, which means even though we had a huge jump from 2020 to 2021, we are still quite significantly under the 2019 number. Specifically, we are down 535,286 people, or down 20.82%. Is that negative? No, obviously we have more people crossing than we had last year, but what it indicates is that we have quite a ways to go before we get back to the numbers that we experienced back in the normal times, quote unquote, back in 2019. So as we look at these sales tax figures, I would make the statement that yes, definitely Mexican nationals contributed. Our friends from down south contributed to these numbers, and that's wonderful. We would love to have them back and have them go to our stores. You know, we talked last month anecdotally. My walking, jogging route is by the mall, so I get to see different license plates again from all over Mexico, which is exciting to see. It's wonderful, but there's still room for growth compared to our historical numbers. And so, going back to your earlier question, what's the tone about the year of 2020? I will tell you from a sales tax perspective, I'm quite excited about what's in store. Because while some of the federal support programs might be falling off, it looks like wages are here to stick around. Job creation is quite strong. And we have this opportunity to recapture the market of our friends from across the river. And that market has plenty of room to grow to get back to the historical numbers where it was. And so all in all, a very strong report. And like I mentioned earlier, a really great foundation for the start of 2022.
That was a great presentation there, Matt. Lots of interesting stats there and trends that you looked at.